Hi everyone, this is Terry Senft. I am the author of the book Camgirls, and tonight I'm answering some questions from students at the University of Central Florida. So here's a question. Terry, in your book, you recall being told a few times to disconnect from online life and do some real and worthwhile feminist work offline. That struck a chord with me because it's a critique that I've encountered myself before. Outside of what you discussed in the text, how have your experiences helped you justify your continual involvement in online interactions and activism in the face of such critiques? Do you have any recommendations for ways to bridge the perceived gap between online and real-world activism? Okay, so this is a question that's near and dear to my heart. And every once in a while you do see it in conferences still. You have people who either believe that if you change your Twitter avatar green, you instantly help people in Iran. Or you get people who only want to talk about politics on the ground, as they say, with the belief that apparently nobody in the street owns, I don't know, a cell phone. So the first thing to remember is that online and offline life is collapsing. These two spheres, if you want to call them that, are collapsing into one another. So people are using their cameras and their phones and their abilities to voice record things in ways that we didn't even anticipate 2 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. And those uses serve a bunch of different purposes for activism. The first would be obviously documentation. It's proof that it happened. I remember doing this work in Ghana with this group of women who are amazing called Wise Up. And they were teaching people to insert photos into Word documents, which doesn't sound very glamorous or advanced, but it was actually critical because in Accra at the time, this is almost a decade ago, the police, there was literacy issues among the police, and you could fill an entire report out and they would go, but if you had photos, they would see those and you would be able to make your case about a domestic abuse issue. So obviously documentation is important. A lot of groups like Witness, for instance, and that's a group that circulates video of human rights abuses from all over the world. It's witness.org if you want to check them out. Witness is finding out that disseminating cameras and training people up is not as big an issue as collecting the massive amount of information that's coming out from all around the world, organizing it, curating it, mobilizing people to actually do something about it. So that's the second issue. That's the second way that online stuff is, I think, critical to helping activism. So you've got collection of data, collection of fact, human rights abuses or what have you. You've got the collection, orchestration, curation, narration of that material. The third thing I think is absolutely critical are alternate spheres for people to turn to that may not be accessible within their immediate geographies. The people I really like in this area are called Scarleteen, and they do a lot of sex education with very young users. Now, I could try to do sex outreach with young users, but if I get in a conversation with a minor about sexually explicit behavior, I'm actually guilty under American law of, I think it's fraternizing with a minor with intent to blah, blah, blah. I'll look it up. So this organization provides a really important pivot point for between the family, the school, the friends. It's another quasi-institution in a way. So those are three ways that I think that online life is critical for real, effective activism on the ground. And I don't think that we can separate them out anymore. I mean, God, if what's going on across the Middle East has taught us anything, it's taught us not to underestimate the power of two very specific networks. The first are digital networks, and the second are the networks of the streets. And if you look at a place like Egypt, people went into the streets when the internet was turned out because they needed their information. So when those two places collide and collapse, the networks of the airwaves and the networks of the streets, I think really amazing things can happen for activism.